Hey everybody, it's Comic Crack. Yeah, another quick little video. Not very many topics like the last one. I guess first thing is thanks everybody who watched that last one and commented and those who made it to the end. I appreciate it. It was one of those kind of things that had all these kind of different thoughts and things that I'd been thinking about in that week, and just decided to try a different kind of format instead of just sticking with one topic. And I was a little nervous about the whole thing. I don't know, because it's kind of a little more out there, it's kind of a little further out there than just talking about comics or games and stuff. It's not going to be a regular occurrence on the channel. I'll probably use that same graphic to kind of distinguish the kind of vlog videos or whatever. But yeah, anyway, thanks for listening and commenting and yeah, just watching the damn thing, 48 minutes or whatever the hell it was. As a kind of tie-up for that, I went the other night for the last performance of the New Music Festival, and I'm looking past you right now because I'm looking to see if I have the little flyer from the night, but I don't have it in front of me. I'm gonna double check. Okay, so I found it. It was a little freebie that came for the whole festival that gives you very, very brief write-up. I just wanted to find it just to remember the other guy's name. So just to start off the video, a couple words about this, and then there's a game that I got in the mail today that's comic book related that I wanted to share with you as well. So if you want to skip past this, I understand. So it was, as I said before, it was Stephen O'Malley, his first piece that he wrote for Orchestral, and it was the world premiere. And what I didn't know was that people within the New Music Festival and sponsors had actually put together money and approached him to write something. So it wasn't kind of the thing that they had heard he was writing something and they wanted to premiere it. It was a work specifically done for this festival that they approached him about, which I think is honestly kind of mind-boggling and pretty great. It makes me even more happy about the whole event. I think that's amazing of them. And I mean, I'm completely guilty of this. I'm not excluding myself from this whatsoever. I have kind of, as maybe a lot of people do, of like this kind of stuffy, kind of symphonic atmosphere, and clearly that's not the case. They have some people associated with it that are really forward thinking and liking the experimentation that happens with in symphonies or pieces of music that are a little more non-traditional maybe. So I was kind of amazed by that. So the night itself was pretty incredible. His piece was pretty fantastic. It was roughly 35 minutes or so, and it was broken up into 3 sections. The use of drone was there for sure. The use of some really nice percussion was there as well to kind of break it up. What I liked about his a lot was with the Phil Niblock piece that I saw, it was really about kind of this consistent tone throughout the whole 18 minutes and just minor fluctuations. O'Malley was playing with some of those ideas as well, but I found like the changes, the instruments dropping out and some instruments picking up a note and kind of the sound shifting. There was a lot more focus on movement throughout the whole piece. It wasn't just a kind of static sound source where they had to slowly bow or blow on their clarinets or whatever for an entire 35 minutes with some minor key changes. There was some pretty dramatic shifts, which I really liked. I thought that worked really well. I was impressed, and then equally impressed, maybe even a little more so, because it was somebody that I've never heard of, Gorecki. Heinrich Gorecki, who is best known for his mega hit Symphony No. 3, Symphony of Sorrowful Songs. Gorecki's Symphony No. 4 was left unfinished at his death in 2010 and will receive its Canadian premiere on our festival finale. The composer's son, Mikołaj Gorecki, will be in attendance. That piece was incredible. I really liked that. It was, as his son stated, he said, if you know his Symphony No. 3 and you're a fan of it, don't expect this to be like that. It was abrasive at points. It was really beautiful at points. There was some notes that they would stab at that were out of tune on purpose that had a really great effect. I thought it was a really, really nice piece of music. I was really impressed with it. I enjoyed it from beginning to end. So the performances worked. It was a really great time. They had a Q&A thing at the end, but because it was so slow going, and I've done my time in art circles, let's just say. I've been to the openings, I've been to experimental film openings, I've been to art stuff for many, many years. A part of me can't fucking stand it anymore because I can't stand some of the conversation and the pretension behind it. I just don't have the patience for it anymore. So mingling in around this crowd and stuff just wasn't doing it for me. So as much as I wanted to kind of hear what he had to say about the piece and hear what people were going to ask him, I just couldn't bear it. So I left early. And on that same point, I went early because they were going to have this talk where they were going to. The pre-concert panel was titled Mysticism and Drone, and I was curious to hear that. O'Malley was a part of that, as was Gorecki, as was one of the organizers, Matthew Patton. And then strangely, they had this woman who just flew in from New York who was an architect talking as well, and the panel got delayed because her plane was delayed, so she kind of came running in and honestly didn't really contribute anything to the conversation. And again, we go back to some of these points of like, I go to this specific festival with these forward-thinking ideas and presenting this a little more difficult music, and what do we end up talking about in a panel of these musicians in front of an audience filled with people where I was probably the youngest? We start talking about what is music and when is something called music, which to me seems like such a waste of fucking time to even talk about. It's such, especially in a festival setting where there's an assumption on my part, and again, maybe I'm just wrong, there's an assumption on my part that if you're going to put together a festival of stuff that's a little more difficult maybe to listen to, a little more that's going to, just because of what the subject matter is, it's going to kind of exclude is the wrong word, but it's going to cut out some people from coming to attend it. You'd think that the people that are coming to attend it have a grasp on what they're seeing, especially this being the final performance of the week-long festival. They not only have a grasp on what they're going to see, but they're not necessarily worried about those kind of definitions. They're there because they want to see stuff that's going to push the envelope. So to then have like a 30-minute conversation on what is music and what does it mean to you, and all this, like, does it have to be written down to be music? Does it have to be notated? Which is, the architect got in on that conversation, you know, like, I found it really irritating and really kind of insulting when it's like, I came to see this pre-concert panel that was titled Mysticism and Drone. That's the panel that I came to see. I mean, I didn't pay for it, it was a free event or anything, but it really bothered me, it really bugged me. And then when they finally did start to get into it, it lasted maybe 5 minutes, because then it was, well, we've got to get ready because the piece is going to be starting soon, and we have this opening act that's going to play in this foyer here, and so it got cut short even. So that was very disappointing, and not that anybody from the festival is watching this, but in the future, when you have something titled Mysticism and fucking Drone, how about stick with the topic and forget about childish questions like what is music when you're a new music festival presenting these kind of works that are a little more on the fringes. Like, forget about that shit. Who needs to justify it? Just move on already. So besides that rant, the Winnipeg New Music Festival 25th year was really enjoyable. I'm really glad that I went, and I mean, I've gone to a couple of things in the past, but it's going to be one of those things that I make sure that I look into now every year. I'm really going to follow it more and subscribe so I get notices, which I've already done actually. Get email notices of any kind of performances throughout the year. Yeah, I'm really glad, and I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't give it more of a chance in previous years. I guess Glenn Branca performed one year, and as I was kind of going through because they had a display of older posters and advertisements, some of the names that jumped out at me just were people that I would love to have heard either talk, or they had some Guy Madden stuff as well too, etc., etc., and a bunch of other people. Yeah, so that's that. Okay, now that I've ranted about that, I'm not an easy person to please, people. Sometimes when it comes to some things, I'm not an easy person to please. I'm a crusty old bastard sometimes, is what it comes down to. So the final thing for this video is there was another math trade through the Board Game Geek website, and this was specific to Canada. And I still had one game that I've been trying to trade with somebody, and I was actually kind of surprised that it didn't trade earlier. It just seemed like one of those games that a lot of people would be interested in, but obviously not. Obviously I know nothing. I know nothing about the horse. So this one, I entered it again, not maybe thinking that anything was going to happen. Just previous to the math trade starting up, I had found that there was a Rogue Trooper board game by Games Workshop. Not only that, there was a couple of 2000 AD style board games, and not only that, there was also some 2000 AD comic book type of games too, with some of the characters. I think Rogue Trooper was one of those as well. I haven't looked too much into that area yet, but so I found out that this game existed. That sounds great, that sounds awesome, added it to my wish list. What comes up in the math trade? The frickin' Rogue Trooper game. So what usually happens with these, the other thing that happens with these math trades is that you can approach people outside of the trade and work out a deal, as long as the math trade is kind of a computer program at the basics of it. There's a thread where you list the game, a picture of it, you list what condition it is, if it's English or French, is it in used condition, is it brand new, how is it condition overall. You just list all the details about the game. Then you go to a separate website which is called the Online Want List Generator, and in there you create a profile. It accesses your Board Game Geek profile, which talks about what games you have for trade, what games you're looking for in trade, what games are on your wish list, etc., etc. Keeps all that information on the Online Want List Generator. You scroll through the trade that you're active in, and you can check boxes, and you can add games to a list of things that you would want. And if you have a number of games on offer to trade, you can say, for the Judge Dredd game, I would trade these 3 games for that one game out of the 6 maybe that you have. So you can pick and choose. Or if it's a game that you really want, you say, I'd trade any game that I have for that specific game. That's how much I want it. If you make a trade outside of the math trade, all you have to do is, in the Online Want List Generator, just make sure that you don't accept anything for that game, basically. You won't trade anything for that game. You leave the check marks blank, and it doesn't screw up the program. That's neither here nor there. I don't even know what the hell I'm talking about anymore. No editing on this video, people. Live with it. Live with it. Sometimes I'm just ranting now. So I approached I approached a couple of guys actually off of the math trade because they had games that I was interested in, and said, hey, this is the one that I have. Would you be interested in it? Maybe we could work out a deal. the math trade kind of gets underway, and it's going, and it's the last day, and I kind of just made a post about it's your last, you know, kind of half jokingly, like it's your last chance to jump on the game Samurai that I have for offer. Because during the math trade you can see how many people are wanting your game, and nobody was wanting it. So it's like, I'm going to be stuck with this game, I'm going to try the hard sell. Lo and behold, that worked. Somebody in Saskatchewan wanted the Samurai game that I had. Great. And what do I get in return out of all the games? I think there was probably 12 games that I had checked off that I want. I got the motherfucking Rogue Trooper game, which is fantastic. I mean, again, it's one of those things it seems to be what happens in life. Something gets on your radar, and next thing you know, it's all that you find. So Rogue Trooper gets on my radar, and my life is filled with finding Rogue Trooper comics, finding a game, getting the game, which is a really random event. So maybe at this point I'll kind of take you in my hands and turn you around, and we'll have a look at the game board, and I'll just kind of show you a little bit of the pieces. I don't know much about the gameplay itself. I haven't started reading the instructions. I didn't do any research on it online. I just had checked it off as this is a game that I want. So let's have a look at Rogue Trooper. I guess maybe first thing is first. I had mentioned, I put some pictures up on Twitter, and I had kind of brought Spiro's attention to it. He's a big Games Workshop guy, and he's been a fan of Games Workshop stuff since I think the mid 80s, he said, and he was surprised that they were responsible for this game. In the game was a little kind of leaflet on some of the other games that Games Workshop has done. So a Judge Dredd role-playing game, Judgment Day, it's a scenario for this game. Judge Dredd, the game of crime fighting in Mega City. Of course, the Rogue Trooper game. There's Rogue Trooper miniatures game. And I'd seen these on the Board Game Geek website as well. Somebody bought the miniatures to play with this game. I don't know if they're... I think they're for another game, but you can use them for this. And then Judge Dredd Slaughter Margin. And it's another supplement for the Judge Dredd role-playing game. And then inside, maybe most interesting to some people, is some Judge Dredd miniatures as well. It's kind of a weird colored paper, so the images aren't showing up that great. But there you can see the amount of, I believe they're lead figures. Yeah, they contain lead, which may be harmful if chewed or swallowed. Judge and Lawmaster Bike, Sky Surfers, Judge Fear, Fire and Mortis, Brit Sit Judge, Clegg's Alien Mercenaries, Judge Cal and Henchman, Judge Dredd, more judges, Judge Death. With Dredd and Judge Anderson, actually. Some of these names mean something to me, some of them don't. The uglies and the fatties and that sort of thing. So it's very cool. I wouldn't mind getting my hands on these miniatures as well to play with the Rogue Trooper game, but it's not going to stop me from playing it. But so there's that. You get a little survival guide, which when you open it up, it's a GI orientation briefing about the environment, some of the definitions, some of the gear that you're going to get, special equipment. I think they go through some of the cards, some of the encounters that some of the people you're going to run into throughout the game, and then a little bit more on the back along the same lines. So a nice little info sheet. Let's put those there for a sec. And then of course the Rogue Trooper Battle Manual, so the instructions for the game. And even more fantastic is it opens up with a Rogue Trooper comic. So art by Dave Gibbons, lettering by Dave Gibbons. So that was a nice surprise, a black and white. So this is from, let me just back up here one sec. Game design, copyright 1987, Games Workshop. So there you go, Spiro, if you're watching this. I think Spiro had mentioned that it was 86 that he had started. So it might have just been something that just didn't catch on outside of the UK. Yeah. And a little more, the end of a comic, and then we get into the rules and the components. I spent a part of the afternoon just kind of going through all the pieces that came with the game to see if I have everything. It looks like I'm just missing a couple of the chits, which I don't think are going to cause an issue with the gameplay. If it does, I can always, I'm sure the files are available on Board Game Geek and I can just print up some for myself. So a quick look through the rest of the rule book. Preparing for battle, the bio chips, character sheets, going through some of the cards, more instructions, what you have to collect because you're looking for the trader basically. So I think is what the deal with this game is. Laid out really nicely. I like the layout of the rules. They're kind of sort of holding on by the staples. I may have to look into maybe trying to reinforce that, or maybe not, just leave it how it is and just be careful. There you go. And then here a bag of various chits. I don't know how well you can see that, but let's get the glare. There you can see the bio chips. And then we have some plastic Rogue Trooper figures, a handful of dice, and then the trader card itself right there. Have a look at the art on that trader card. It's pretty awesome. I believe Dave Gibbons did all the art for all this as well too. And then here's a stack. I think it's a up to 6-player game, but these are the player mats basically, so you can track your various things, how many micro mines you have, how many plasma grades you have, seal bursters, etc., how many lives, and then a spot for bagman, gunner, and helm, and then your particular GI's color with a nice picture of the Rogue Trooper there. So you get some of those mats, and then you get stacks of cards, encounter cards, clue cards, what does that one say? I can't remember. Mission cards is the other one, and then rogue cards and supply cards. There was also an expansion for this game too, and I think the expansion just gave you more cards. It was another set of cards to add different missions possibly to the game. I'll lay out the board and we can have a look, and we'll come back and have a quick look at that. So the first thing I'll say about this board is it's a puzzle board basically, so it just fits together like so. I've heard, I think it was on Callendale's videos, but I'm sure I've heard it in other places too. There's people that really dislike the puzzle boards. I really like this one. It's probably because it's in still such great condition, but I find with the game that I traded, for example, Samurai, it was a game board that folded up, but because it was on this a little bit of thinner cardboard over the years, especially because it's an older game as well too, from the early 80s, I believe, maybe it's 1980 actually, it actually split down, so what was supposed to be in kind of 2 sections that folded open 3 times, it was now in 6 different pieces, and therefore it wouldn't line up properly. So I kind of like these puzzle boards. They fit together really nicely. You don't have to worry about folding it back up and getting that wear and tear on the edges. So here's the pictures of the game board itself. There's 6 different drop zones, I'm assuming, where each of the characters, if you're playing a 6-person game, start. And then you move throughout the areas. Jungle, New Nuremberg, Scum Swamp, Glass Zone, Timbuktu, Atomic Desert, New Arcady, Glass House, Black Sea, Magnapole, oxygen rooms, etc., etc. Another glass zone, more swamp bases, shuttle bases. And then the Millicom battle computer and Millicom center with some brigs and life pods and shuttle bays and a sick bay. And then just kind of a legend as far as what each of the symbols mean. Mountain range, plains range, a city range, jungle, swamp range, special sector, etc. So yeah, there's a look at the board. Really great. It's some fantastic art on it. I'm really excited that I managed to score this game, as surprised as I am. I think that just might be color that's specifically on there. It's in fantastic condition. He said that the guy that I got the game from, he said that he bought it secondhand as well. So whoever has had this, they really took care of it, which, man, I love. I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to digging into this. So yeah, that's about it. Thanks very much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this little peek. When I do eventually do a gameplay video, it'll be over at my gaming channel. This is one that for sure I will film a kind of walkthrough, because I noticed on Board Game Geek there wasn't any videos attached with it whatsoever, and I wouldn't mind doing something like that. When I get used to, when I've read the instructions for that video, I'll kind of go through it in a lot more detail, even before the gameplay, talk more about the cards and things. So if you haven't, and if you are curious to check out my gaming channel, I'll leave a link. It's AstralHexEncounter, and yeah, it's mostly some unboxings, but it's mostly just gameplay videos for some of the Ares magazine games that I have, and that sort of thing. So yeah, thanks very much, everybody, and we'll talk to you.